All right, welcome back to the Eternum News Network. This is episode 5, and I am Davrim, and we record this live on twitch.tv/Davrim every single Friday, starting around 6 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are available and want to join in the New World conversation and be on the podcast, please do stop by and say hello. Click that follow button, come back, join us. I play a lot of New World. Just about every stream, 5 streams a week, a lot of New World, wars, invasions, me crafting, me being a dumbass, me being horrible at PvP, but still having a fun time and trying it anyways. So if you're listening out there in the YouTube world or the podcasting app world, please do come by and say hello. And I apologize, we haven't had any episodes here for 2 weeks or so, and that's just because I took some time over the holidays away from content. I took some time over the holidays to just be with the family and travel and see some family that I hadn't seen for a while, and just spend some quality time with the family. I don't see my family a whole lot, and I work more than anyone probably should in a week. So taking that time away from work and just relaxing is really important to, refresh myself. But it is now 2022. The new year has rung, and that means we're back on the grind. And that means we've got more New World news to cover, including, we'll talk about today, some notes that we've got popped out of the PTR, popped out of the testing realms, from the forums themselves, of what the January patch notes are going to look like. What are we going to see? At least, it's not ever comprehensive what they put out on these notes and these previews, but there's a lot of stuff now on the PTR that you can go and test out and check out the new things coming. So we'll go through those patch notes today and kind of look at some of the stuff to get excited about coming up. Again, the game has came a long way in a very short amount of time. This game was close to unplayable at launch, had a lot of issues. We've talked about them in the first 4 episodes ad nauseum, but we've also talked about the improvements the game has made. I can say that I think the server merge, though not as big as the players wanted, not as big as what AGS wanted either, I think it was a good first start, and I believe from all the news that I've heard is they're going to be revisiting the merges in February and March. Again, just to take a look to see if they can do some more merging in order to, again, get a smaller set of servers that are more healthy, more competitive, more player-based, because that's what we want, right? That's what we want. We want a stable game, which they still have some room for improvement there. We want a balanced game. They still have room for improvement there, but we want a healthy game, and part of that health is going to be players, because it's a player-driven game. Player economy, no NPCs. Obviously, you need groups. You need people to fight in wars. You want those wars to be competitive. You've got invasions that you have to do, and, I have to say that I now have the Steam achievement for beating an invasion. Not only beating an invasion, I've beaten, I think, 3 invasions now, and they've been in large cities, like Citadel-style cities. So I've got that achievement, and I think less than 2% of the players that have played New World actually have that achievement. So I like that. I like having a little bit of an exclusive achievement. Obviously, that number will go up, but done a lot of wars recently. You can obviously check out the wars on the YouTube. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you can obviously just click over, and I've got a whole playlist of wars. If you're not on the YouTube, you can always check out Davrim TV on YouTube, and you can get all the war coverage of the wars that I'm in and my entertaining / yelling commentary that happens. But let's talk about what's going on currently right now in New World. Obviously, it's the holiday time, which means not a whole lot of movement as far as the development team. I think the last update, the December update, was a critical update for them to make sure the game was in a healthier spot, in a more stable spot going into holidays, because people are at home, asses are in seats, and games are being played. And you want those folks who might have had a bad experience at the start, you might want those folks who had a bad experience early on, you might want them to come back and take a look at New World again, because it is a much better game than what it was when it first launched. And so making sure that the December update was a stable one, the December update had some new stuff to do, and the December update, was an update that helped the game look better in a new light for players who may have had a poor experiences. So we had the server merges happen. We got a patch that relatively was pretty good. Obviously there are still some bugs out there. There are still some unbalancing out there. But compared to where this game was just a very short amount of time ago, it's much, much better. Way more gooder. I just triggered every single grammar nerd out there and English major out there. But it's in a much better place. Is it perfect? Far from it. Do they have a lot of work to do? Yes, absolutely. But what I'm enjoying about what the development team has been doing is I appreciate that they are actually focusing on the issues that the players are having. Yes, they've got their own agenda. Yes, they have their own things that they're working on. But at the end of the day, they are working on things that are, an improvement to what the game was. And one of the new things that they did, the new content that you can take part in, is the Winter Warrior event, or the Winter Convergence event. And I think this event, for their first event, was really good. I think they definitely have some opportunities with this in order to make it better. I think but I think for a first event, I think this was a good first step. And there were some exclusive cosmetics. There were some Amazon Prime gaming drops, or they're not really drops, they're just claims that were very unique. And there were some Twitch drops that are still going on right now, in which you can get on my Twitch channel. So there were a lot of things that they added in there. And then on top of that, they added, in-game stuff like the meteor showers to collect a resource called Gleamite. They added the presents that were scattered around the world that you can pick up. And they added a whole long quest line that starts, for low-level characters and goes up to, high-level characters in the last one, which I did it in a group of 5, and it was not an easy thing in a group of 5. But what was really cool about this was, we had the update which gives us a 30% luck bonus if we're PvP flagged, which means more players out there are PvP flagging, which is great. For what the game is based around. The game is a territory control PvP game. Yes, there are PvE features, and yes, there are places for people who want to just play PvE. But there, eventually you're going to cap out in PvE, right? It's just kind of like World of Warcraft. PvE is one side of the game. PvP is the other side of the game. Yes, there's things you can do in both, but it's a combination of each one that allows you to have a complete player experience. And New World is even more so a combination, because you can go out with your PvP flag on and get rare items with your luck bonus. You can get rare crafting materials with your luck bonus, but you also have the risk that someone may fight you, and so you have to be prepared to fight. And I always encourage people who out there who don't like PvP. There was a time in my life I didn't like PvP either. Now I love PvP. Am I good at it? No, I'm really not that great at it, but it's fun. And what's the penalty for dying in New World? Seriously, what's the penalty for dying? Nothing. Like, there is no penalty for dying, except you have to run back. That is literally the only penalty. You don't lose items. You don't lose, whatever. You lose a little bit of time in order to run back. So there's really no penalty. So there's really no reason not to have PvP flagged. Unless, of course, you're trying to get something done in an area where it's infested with, another faction who are all PvP flagged, and you just run to do your thing and just get trounced every single time. Then I understand. But in general, there's plenty of places that you can go gather resources, get your chests done, get some good drops. There's plenty of places to do that with PvP on without having the threat of a giant Zerg rolling over you like a freaking what are those big asphalt rollers, the road rollers, one of those things over top of an ant or something. There's plenty of ways that you can get around that. But I think the Winter Convergence, it had a system, and with the 30% luck, though I don't believe the 30% luck really played into a whole lot of the Winter Convergence, people were still more likely to have the PvP flag on, and thus they were more likely to have interesting player interactions, whether it be friendly or violent. That's just how the game is, and so I think they did a great job. So I think this was a good first attempt. I think for future events, they need to really take into some consideration some of the, shortcomings of this event. And some of the shortcomings that I saw of the event, the price for the premium items. So I'm talking about the furniture items, the cosmetics. I believe they were just a tad bit high. Not like ridiculously too high. I just think they were a tad bit high. My average playtime, even when I'm not streaming, is usually about 4 to 8 hours a day, depending on the day. Usually under 8 quite a bit, but at least 4 hours a day, and I still haven't gotten all the premium items. And I know there's a lot of players out there that cannot afford to play 4 hours a day of a game, right? You just can't do it. Now, I am a firm believer that when you do some sort of limited time cosmetic, or you do an event that allows you to unlock cool new things, I personally think there is a certain amount of exclusivity that those players who do put in the time and grind it out do deserve to get. However, with the currency that they did, where you have to get a resource, a present, or you have to get a gleamite, and you have to get so many of those to turn into a normal coin, and then you have to turn so many of the normal coins into the premium coins, I think the conversion rate was just a little off. I think it was just a little bit too high. And I think AGS noticed this as well. They tweeted out today, in fact, I believe it was today. 5 hours ago, as of this recording, at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 5 hours ago, around noon Eastern Standard Time, it says the Winter Convergent Festival has been extended to January 25th. All Convergence giveaway items, so those are items that they gave away over the Christmas holiday, will be available again January 21st. So grab your items if you missed them. So if you missed some of the items, the crazy hats, the outfits and stuff like that, pay attention. Again, January 21st, you'll have the opportunity to get those free giveaway items. They are in-game. You have to log into the game, go to the store, and you'll see the free items there. And the festival is continuing to January 25th, which is right before I leave for a trip to go see my brother graduate from the Marine Academy. So that should be exciting. But so they extended the event, which could coincide in multiple things. One, they noticed that players aren't getting the items, especially maybe more of the casual players aren't getting the items, or at least a good chunk of the items, right? You don't want an event to have a whole bunch of seasonal exclusive items and a very small percentage of the population actually being able to unlock those. That's not what you want. Do you want 100% of the population to unlock it? No, that means the event is too easy. But you want a nice chunk of your population to be able to unlock those items. So I think that's part of it. And I think maybe the other part is maybe the January update, because of the holidays, isn't quite ready yet. Their monthly updates do usually launch at the end of the month. So it's more like a February update, if you ask me, because you're actually going to be playing the update in the month after it was actually, dropped, right? So in my mind, they should rename this the February update. We should be in the January update now, but that's not how they're doing it, and that's fine. That's their choice. So I think they need to bring the prices of the premium items down, or change the conversion of how you get these items if they choose to use this style in the future, which I think it's a fine system to use. I think they did a good job there. Lots of furniture items. I think there was a costume or a whole full transmog for your outfit. along with a little pet that you can put in your house, a little bunny rabbit. So I think that was, I think their overall approach of cosmetic stuff for your house, I think was a great idea. It fit the theme with everything is ice covered. I think you can do a really cool house design with that kind of stuff. So that is cool. The other part that I think it was a missed opportunity and a poor choice on their behalf is the patterns. So there's a lot of cool patterns and for all the different weapons and different armor pieces and stuff like that for the game. And these patterns were really just revolve around corruption. So corruption damage, corruption absorption, corruption, stuff like that. The issue is that the patterns, once you unlock them, which they were very cheap, so you could get them very quickly, but the problem was if you got those, you were losing some of your currency in order to get the premium stuff. So it was conflicting. The weapons and the armor look really cool. They're very ice themed, which I think they should be, being that it was a whole festival and an entire event around winter and ice. My issue was when you craft these items, though, you use the pattern, which means if you maybe got a bad roll on it or you weren't happy with it, you have to go and get another pattern. I really think the prices of these maybe should have been a little bit higher, and if you get the pattern, you unlock it forever, and you're able to craft these. I mean, what's a better way in order to promote, crafters making money and doing cool things with their max level crafting than being able to craft these limited time items and allowing them to sell them on the auction house? I think that would be a great idea and a great feature for a game that's based around player driven economy and everything player based. Apparently there's someone in my neighborhood who decided that they wanted to get arrested or something. Jesus. So yeah, I think they really needed to relook at how that was done. I don't think having a recipe that's only available if you use the recipe is a very good way of doing these. I did get one of the recipes just because I wanted to have it for when I got my max weaponsmithing, and I'm going to hang on to it and see what happens when the winter event is over to see if that crafting recipe disappears or if I can keep it until whenever I use it. So I think those should have been permanent. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't have been permanent. I mean, for a lot of the players who are level 60, the armor that you can purchase with tokens anyways wasn't that great, and really crafting the stuff was a much better approach. Giving players that exclusive item to be able to craft in the future and sell and drive the economy, and keeping something that has a relatively high price point because only a limited amount of crafters have the ability to craft it, I think was a really good idea that they missed on. I think that was a big miss for this event. But overall, for the very first event that they ran, I thought the Winter Convergence event was really good. It hit the feel goods, if you will, for me. When it comes to what an event should have. It should have a really fun theme. It should be themed around not only the game, but it should also be themed around whatever it is. So Valentine's Day, love, hearts, fun stuff like that. Christmas time, winter, New Year's, new birth type stuff. It should be focused around the season or whatever they're trying to do there. And I think they hit the nail on that. I think when it came to the rewards, though, I think that was their biggest opportunity and biggest miss here. And again, it was their first event, so I'm sure they're getting plenty of feedback from there's a variety of different podcasts out there, YouTube videos, people talking about it, tweets and stuff like that, Reddit, that cesspool of a platform. There's plenty of places out there where I'm sure they're getting feedback from the players on what we liked and what we didn't like about this. And I have a feeling that one of the pieces that they're going to hear about is these recipes not being permanent. And also the amount of time it takes you to grind these particular tokens. I think it was just a little high, not like astronomically high, not impossibly high. Just think it was just a tad high. So I've been doing some Invasion and some War, and the lag seems to be much better. It's not perfect. I know there's still lag out there. I know there's still weapon swap issues out there. I know there's still a movement bug out there. So there's definitely some things that they need to be working on in terms of, again, making the game more stable, making the game more quality. Oh. Did New World get a new website? Not to my knowledge. Let me just pull it up. Let me just refresh the page here. No, newworld.com. It is still newworld.com. Yep. So newworld.com is still their main website. And it still looks the same as it always did to me. I've got it up on my my screen right here. I can where's my buttons? Scenes, this button. Yep, right there. newworld.com. All right, so let's dive into the January notes here. So we got patch. Let's see here. It says PTR January release notes. This information was released on the 6th of January, and a lot of cool stuff. Again, a nice big patch, a lot of things that we're looking at. But one of the things that has been a complaint from the community has been end-game dungeons, right? So there's a lot of PvE players out there who want some sort of in-game dungeons. And they've honestly kind of taken I guess, a feather out of Blizzard's book and out of World of Warcraft's book, and they've added something new called an expedition modifier. It'll be a crafted item like the cores and the orbs that you need for the dungeon, and it's called a expedition modifier mutators orb. And what it's going to do is it's going to adjust the particular expedition that you are in. Now, again, I don't really take part in the PTR, but I have seen some feedback from some people who do. And this seems like a pretty cool system. And it's like Blizzard's Mythic Plus system for World of Warcraft. So they say, we're introducing a new endgame feature, Expedition Mutators. Mutators change the familiar by augmenting elite and named elites found in an expedition, changing the way the encounters play out and what strategies players should consider before battle. And as combat changes, so do the rewards. New gear and resources can be found, providing additional means to increase your power level. This system is intended to rotate through a unique combination of expeditions and mutations each week. So just like Blizzard's in Plus, each week there are new affixes that if you've never played World of Warcraft and never done Mythic Plus, each week at reset, Blizzard announces and puts forth a new set of challenges in each dungeon. It's the same dungeons, but it's a new affix, and those dungeons get harder and harder based on how many levels up you do. So it looks like they're kind of taking a tip of the cap from M+. This system is intended to rotate through a unique combination of expedition mutations to challenge to climb the ladder with the aim of eventually reaching the max difficulty. So again, just like M+, as you beat it, you can do it on a higher difficulty. Beat it, do it on a higher difficulty. And each week, it's going to change. Okay? And there's 10 levels of difficulty. So basically dungeon plus 10 with these mutations. Please be advised that the recommended gear score levels for mutated expeditions is important, as it directly factors into enemy scaling. By consequence, your chances of success. So the stronger you are, right, the higher level you can do, but you could also potentially challenge yourself if your gear score doesn't match what the mutated expedition is. You can maybe challenge yourself and see if you can beat something a little higher. That is what the entire esports industry of the PvE content of World of Warcraft is. World of Warcraft is an entire esports dedicated to Mythic Plus. It's not that great of a system because of the rewards payout. They pay out a lot more to the PvP aspect of the esports, but it's definitely something that's very popular, right? So you're going to start seeing streamers, just like you see in World of Warcraft. There are PvP experts, and there are M+ experts, and there are rating experts. You're now probably going to start seeing streams in New World start to kind of divide themselves, and you're going to see some PvP folks who are only PvP focused, and you're probably going to see some PvE folks who are only expedition mutation experts, and they're going to be pushing that stuff. And then you're going to have people like me who are going to do a combination of both. So you're going to probably have a very different viewing experience on some of these different content creators and streamers. You're going to have a whole new realm of YouTube videos and how-to guides and kind of those, hey, look, we were the first person to complete this, or we did it this fast. You're going to have a new side of kind of not really an official, but an esports system basically built into New World, where people are kind of challenging themselves on higher and higher mutation difficulties on this expedition, which is a very exciting thing for the game. And this is huge for the game. In-game PvE has not been really much of anything. It's kind of been lame. People have gotten their gear score up high enough that these dungeons are honestly pretty easy if you're a competent player. So having this coming in is going to be really awesome. So how do you enter one of these mutated expeditions? Upon approaching and interacting with the expedition menu, players will be able to see the type of mutations available and the mutation level, gear score recommended to advance, and lastly, if they meet the qualifications for entry. Mutator orbs are universal. Players can craft one per week and will be available to purchase additional orbs in the faction shop. So this will be a crafted item just like your normal orbs, and it'll be locked just like a lot of stuff to one per week. Now, with that being said, you've got your companies, you've got your friends, people are going to sell their mutation orbs, obviously. Again, it's a player-based game where players are driving the economy and how they make money. So you're definitely going to see people selling these 100%. They're going to be selling runs of these where you might have like 4 of the 5 players who are really good, and they're going to carry someone for an exponential amount of gold. It is 100% going to happen, just like World of Warcraft. It's just how this system kind of works. Because if someone who is not that good as far as skill, or maybe that good of equipment, they will pay that big cheddar cheese in order to get in there and get some better gear and et cetera, without having to beat their face in trying to do these with a pug group, right? They'll find a group of people who will do it. Now, what the game has to be very careful of is there are a lot of systems in World of Warcraft, unfortunately, that have been built around real-world transactions for these organizations to basically, power people through this. Now, again, World of Warcraft does not, allow for real world transactions in order to do this, but it happens. There is data out there. You can find it in Discord servers and on websites. There is real money, real actual cash being, exchanged between the leadership of these Discords and the players in the game in order to get them through these. So this is something that unfortunately is going to invite that kind of stuff into the game. It's just how MMOs are. MMOs for all the way back to the EverQuest days in 1999, there was real world transactions happening in order to get drops, in order to get, items, in order to get runs through dungeons and raids and stuff like that. It just happens. Now, again, the gaming industry has tried to cut back on this a whole lot, but at the end of the day, it's still going to happen. People they love to play video games, and if they're good at playing video games, Twitch, there's a lot of stuff out there on Twitch right now that you can go and see that people are not happy with the amount of money that you make on Twitch, right? There's only so much money that you can make making content with YouTube and stuff. And sure, you can make a lucrative living off of it. But again, any normal person out there making a good amount of money, what do they think about? How do I make more money? And if they're really good at a video game, they're going to try to figure out ways to profit off of that. And part of that is accepting real money in order to get through some of this stuff. So it's going to happen. Just be prepared. I'm sure AGS is probably well aware of this, considering this model that they have here with their mutated expeditions is very much in plus. So I'm sure they have studied the WoW model. I'm sure that they've done their due diligence as far as the issues that WoW has with real world transactions and stuff like that. So I'm sure they're prepared for it. So if you're a smart player out there, don't take real money transactions for this, because most likely you'll get caught and banned. So there you go. Let's see here. Scoring and achievement. So how do you get a score out of this? Because you have to be able to beat it, but you also, again, it says very much climb the ladder. So there has to be a here's the stepstones on how you level it up. So score is performance based, taking from a combination of the following categories. Score is also a shared value among group members. So again, the score is the same for all group members. The following categories count towards the group's overall score. Time. The better the time, the better the score, calculated at the end of the run. So whenever you kill that last boss is when your time ends. So people are going to get really creative in figuring out which polls they can skip, which polls they can't skip. Just like World of Warcraft's Mythic Plus. AI kills, a target value for killing a predetermined amount of enemies within the expedition. So in World of Warcraft, you have to kill so many enemies. Each enemy is worth a certain percent. You have to be 100% complete in order to get your score at the end. Takedowns, a target value for killing named enemies within the expedition. So there's going to be a score number, with named enemies. So you don't want to skip the named enemies. There are a couple dungeons. I'm thinking of Genesis, I believe, off the top of my head. There's kind of a couple like named guys off to the side that some people skip. You might not want to skip them anymore. Team wipes. Each team wipe during a boss fight reduces the score by a significant amount. Now, it does say during a boss fight, so a wipe is probably not going to count if you are not killing a boss. However, the next item is respawns. Each respawn, so each time a player dies and respawns, and I assume respawn does not mean res. It doesn't say anything about death counts here. It says respawns, which means utilizing the respawn crystals. Each respawn reduces the score by a moderate amount. So it doesn't say anything about if you are downed, not dead, and your teammate picks you up. So again, it again adds a new strategy, because if someone takes an attack and gets downed, there's obviously other attacks, AoEs, that can kill that person, and you don't want your score to go down by that person dying. So it kind of changes a strategy of where you're pulling mobs, how you're moving the boss around the different rooms in order to get someone on there to res them. However, you also have to understand if someone's down, that's a lack of DPS or healing or tanking or whatever the case may be, which means now your time is going up. So it's really changing the game as far as how these dungeons work. And I can't compare it to anything more than WoW Mythic Plus, because it is written right here. It's basically, we are introducing World of Warcraft's Mythic Plus system. That's basically what it's saying. There are also bonus multipliers for run efficiency, minimal respawn and wiping, speed, and takedown of all targets. These are calculated at the end of the expedition run. The score ranks bronze, silver, and gold. Right, so making sure you're efficient, killing as many people as you can, not wiping, and, just overall speed. So the better you are at clearing this completely, so you may even see some strategies of kiting large groups of mobs, AoEing things down. There's going to be a lot of cool strategies, and there's going to be a lot of gamification where people are going to try to figure out the best way to do these in order to get the maximum amount of rewards, again, to potentially sell this a carry or whatever for gold, etc. Advancement through each modifier difficulty level requires reaching a pre-designated level of proficiency within the highest achieved level. Higher scores mean advancement to higher difficulties, which in turn lead to better rewards. So every time you complete this thing, depending on bronze, silver, gold, will unlock however much higher that you can do the next time. You do that and it keeps going up 10 levels. The faster you do it, the better you get. Bronze, silver, gold, and the higher level go together to give you the better rewards. So here are the effects. Here are the mutations, if you will. Elemental. The elemental mutations infuse enemies in the expedition with a specific elemental damage type, increasing their resistance to that damage type, covering a large portion of their damage of that type, and giving them powerful elemental abilities. So we're going to see new abilities coming from the enemies. We're going to see immunity / damage absorption from that specific elemental type, and we're going to see increased damage of that type. So this means maybe the armor that you're using might change out to put elemental versus physical. You might change that out. You also may have to look at what your group composition is. If you're going into a fire elemental mutation and you've got a fire mage DPS, well, you may want to talk to them about maybe switching off to a musket or a bow and becoming a dex person, or ice gauntlet and void gauntlet, whatever the case may be. Obviously, this is going to maybe cause some issues with some players who aren't so up on all the different types of weaponry. And it's also going to encourage people to have multiple suits of armor, multiple specs, and all that kind of stuff in order to be prepared for these different mutations. Hellfire. Hellfire infuses enemies with fire, allowing them to burn players who oppose them. So like a damage shield. Eternal. Eternal infuses enemies with void, granting them abilities that debuff players or buff their void-infused allies. So those seem to be like the first two types of elementals. So it doesn't look like they're using frost in here at all. Nature, stuff like that. So this, again, this is the first rendition of this. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure we'll get more later on. Promotions is another mutation. Promotion mutations grant creatures in the expedition powerful new abilities. Again, new abilities, which is exciting. You know, a lot of us who are level 60 and have been 60 for a while and have done Lazarus and who have done Genesis, spicing it up a little bit would be very, very nice. So hearing new abilities sounds really cool. And the two items here are Savage and Indomitable. Savage AI apply healing reduction and casting damage beams around themselves. So this is very interesting. This is almost like the Slicer, which everyone hates the Slicer. Why? Because it hurts a lot and it hits a lot of people. And sometimes the boss is standing in it. So the only way you can tank it / hit it is by standing in the slicing beams. What's interesting here is it adds a healing reduction, which means a dungeon that has blight, people are going to have to be more careful, because if you get blighted, you have a healing reduction. Plus, if they have Savage, they apply a healing reduction, which means you could go from being able to heal someone or being able to get heals to not being able to get heals or heal someone at all. So very interesting mutation there. Really something that's going to probably challenge... I wouldn't say it's going to challenge the high-end players who are really good at these things, avoiding this stuff. I would say it's definitely going to punish the more casual player, though, who has a hard time realizing that they're in blight and stuff like that. It is going to be a challenge for, again, the more casual player. Indomitable. Indomitable creatures persist through damage with life-stealing abilities and are able to summon a phalanx, blocking all incoming player projectiles. So again, it's going to hurt the bow and musket users. I don't know if something like Fireball or the Ice Gauntlet or the Void Gauntlet shoots, I don't know if those are considered projectiles. I was pretty sure the only projectiles in the game were ammunition, bullets, and arrows. But either way, we saw the phalanx mutation on some of the new mobs with the Winter Convergence. So phalanx is already in the game, and if you did the quest to kill all the Yetis, you saw what phalanx was, so you know what this particular thing is. But on top of the phalanx ability, they're also going to be able to lifesteal. So again, some of these creatures who have a lot of hit points, who do a lot of damage, boss mobs and stuff like that, if they're indomitable, that means they're going to be able to take more damage because they're going to be life-stealing as they go. So I think it's a really cool mutation. And again, it's going to change how people are playing. right? Because if it has life-stealing abilities, you're probably going to want to use, I don't know, the hatchet in order to slow them down from self-healing. Maybe some of the new abilities that you can get on armor and weapons to reduce the amount of healing incoming. Maybe, some new armor sets are going to be needed for this. I know they're going to be needed for this, but really getting creative and really thinking outside the box on what type of armor sets you're taking in to some of these dungeons based on these mutations. The last mutation is called curses. Curse mutations apply dangerous effects to players, forcing them to work together to overcome the curse's power. At the highest difficulty, curses become empowered, creating additional tactical challenges. There are two types of curses. There is desiccated and there are censored curses. Desiccated players will occasionally combust with elemental energy. When the curse is empowered, players will need to cleanse themselves immediately by approaching the combusting player. Censored players will find their abilities turning against them. After a player in a group have used a certain number of activated abilities, explosive silence zones will appear on the player. When the curse is empowered, players will lose natural mana regeneration and must enter the silence zone to regenerate their mana. So I don't know how these mutations are going to maybe go into effect completely. I don't know if maybe the lower tiers you're just going to get elemental, and then as you climb the tiers you get promotion mutations, and then you climb up to the higher tiers you get curses. I'm not sure. Maybe 1 week it's going to be, you might have Hellfire, Indomitable, Censored. I'm not quite sure how that's going to build out. I'm sure there's some players out there who've been testing these in the PTR and can hit me up in the email box or hit me up on Twitter or in the Discord. But it seems like a really cool thing. Again, adding new challenges and rewarding players for completing those challenges, along with really adding some new thing to sell, a new player-driven economy piece with the orbs themselves, or with running people through. It's going to give companies new things to do, and in all honesty, it's going to give PvE players a whole new outlook and a whole new thing to do. I know, for example, one of the players who really got a lot of people into this game, in Towley, a streamer that I've looked up to for a long time, he got into the game early. It was very PvP focused, which is not his jam, even though he took part in it. And he's kind of dabbled back into it every so often as they push out updates. But I think having an M+ system, a Mythic Plus system, a system that he is very familiar with and a system that he enjoys in World of Warcraft, I think having that system in New World may bring him back into play a lot more. And having more of these larger content creators show off the game, thus showing off the improvements of the game and showing off the new features to an audience who may have been turned off to this game for one reason or another in the past, maybe haven't even dabbled in the game because it didn't have something they wanted to see, might bring some new players in, may bring some returning players back, and may really kind of bump that player base even more after these merges. So I'm really excited to see that. The next thing on the patch notes here, expedition changes. With the release of expedition mutators, we've made some balance changing and updates to the existing content. We've made expeditions more enticing by updating the rewards and drop rates, bringing them in line to other in-game activities. Drop rate for named mobs in expeditions have been significantly increased. Well, Kidron, maybe you'll get your Will of the Ancient at level 600 now. Kidron's a buddy of mine that I've been playing with pretty much since the first day, and he's been trying to get a level 600 Will of the Ancient forever and cannot seem to do it, so hopefully. Tier 5 gear, so that's the highest level gear, has been added to Dynasty Shipyard loot tables when playing in a mutated expedition. So that's really cool, right? Dynasty has some challenges in there. I can definitely see Dynasty being a troublesome expedition, especially with the mutators. I know a lot of people have issues with the dog boss. A lot of people have issues with the final boss as well, along with a couple of the trash pulls. So being able to mutate that and get rewards out of it that are at tier 5 is a pretty cool thing. So So I know I've still got a Dynasty orb sitting around. So that's really cool. And it makes Dynasty a particular interest. Right now we have Lazarus and we have Genesis at the high end, which everyone wants to do because that's where the high end stuff is. But if you start looking at Dynasty with the mutations and being able to get tier 5 gear, I think that's a pretty good win there because, again, Dynasty is kind of an overlooked place, and it kind of invigorates an expedition that hasn't been played by the high end since they got through that level. We have adjusted certain enemy counts for Lazarus. Reduce the number of enemies when sealing the ancient Azoth portals in the Ostium. Okay. So bringing some of the mobs down in Lazarus on the wave encounter. Here's something that a lot of people have talked about, and I read this earlier, and I have mixed feelings about it, and I'll talk about it in a minute, and that's fast travel cost. People bitch all the time about not having enough Azoth. Look, when I leveled up, I get it. I did not have enough Azoth. I thought that this system, the fast travel Azoth system, was kind of crappy, and I ran around most of the time. But with all the changes they've made as far as ways to get Azoth through gathering and everything else, I never run out of Azoth anymore. Now I'm a lucky one that does get into wars and invasions, which gives a significant amount of Azoth. Outpost Rust gives a lot of Azoth. I really don't think there's an issue with Azoth. People just get annoyed because they want to fast travel everywhere. They're used to games like World of Warcraft where you've got a teleportation system through the major cities. They're used to having a flying mount. They're used to being able to get from point A to point B very quickly, and that's why they don't like the fast travel system in this game because, one, it costs you a certain type of currency, and two, you still have to run. I don't personally find an issue with it, but I'm an old school guy that was used to EverQuest too. If you wanted to run from one side of the world to the other side of the world, it was going to take you, an hour, 2 hours maybe, because there was lack of fast travel system. So we've heard your frustrations with the cost of fast travel, and this release includes an update that dramatically reduces the distance factor in the amount of Azoth required for each trip. And accordingly, if you have the faction control point bonus associated with fast travel, now it reduces the Azoth cost to a factor to 0. So if you've got the faction control bonus, you have to pay nothing in order to transport around through town. I think this is fine. Again, I don't know. I was fine with it how it was. It added a currency that you had to farm up and you had to monitor and you had to work with, and I personally was okay with that. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but you know what? Boo-hoo, go home, cry about your mounts. I don't want mounts to come into this game at all. I don't think this game should have mounts. I think it's bad. They've already given you the faster run speed when you run on pathways. I have not had any issues in 2 months with Azoth, with gathering, with OPR, and with the other activities that I'm doing in the game. I have absolute zero issue with Azoth, especially now. If you've got your gathering up where you can, where once you get your gathering or trade skill up and you hit those checkpoints with the last update and you get the box, the reward box of materials, it comes with like 10 vials of Azoth in it. So as long as you're doing things in the game, again, I know not everyone loves to craft. I know not everyone wants to gather, but you know what? If you want to fast travel and you want Azoth, stop bitching about crafting. Stop bitching about wanting to go out and gather stuff and go and do it and get your Azoth. That's really easy. You don't even have to buy an expensive tool. Getting a tool to gather hemp, go to a field, gather a whole bunch of hemp, and every time you gather a hemp, guess what? You get an Azoth. Once you get your gathering, which is very quick, up to 200, every so many ticks around, you get 3 ticks around, you get a whole bunch of resources that you can sell and like 10 vials of suspended Azoth. I'm sitting here at 1,000 Azoth every time I log in because I can't spend it fast enough. And I'm sitting here on vials of Azoth that are like, I've got like 20 vials, well, probably less than that now because I've used some, but like 13, 20 vials of Azoth on me. And the vials of Azoth, because of how quickly you're getting Azoth now, are worth absolutely nothing on the market. I really think the changes they've made have fixed the Azoth system. So I don't know why they're continuing to reduce this, but if it makes players happy and keeps them around, okay, that's fine with me. If it's going to do what players want it to do and keeps them around, okay, whatever. I do enjoy the fact that the faction control point bonus is actually a 0 cost travel now. And the reason I like that is because now it's going to force people to want to get better at wars. It's going to force people to want to war. It's going to force people to want to take control of forts. And it's going to increase interesting and violent PvP interactions between players out there in order to get that 0 Azoth travel cost. I absolutely love that because wars are fun. Open world PvP is fun. Trying to take open world forts is an absolute blast. And this now gives you a huge advantage of having the faction control point bonus to make your Azoth cost of 0. So on that front, I think that's amazing because everyone already wants the discount that faction control point gives you. They already want that. And now to take that discount and make your Azoth cost 0 is absolutely crazy. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to a lot more fights out there. All right. Some notable fixes that they're going to be putting in place. Again, this is not a comprehensive list. It's just some of the highlights. Trying to look down through here, some of the things that might be at all interesting. So this answers a question I had, and it kind of disappoints me because my rabbit cave is currently a Yeti cave. The Yetis for the Winter Convergent event will move from elite bosses to just elites after the Winter Convergence event. So the Yeti caves will be remaining. And so, there's an elite chest in each of those caves, and they will continue to be an elite mob. So you can farm, items off of them. Their respawn rate is relatively quick, so it'd be a decent place to spawn stuff there. Additional enemies have been added to an abandoned camp in Restless Shore. Let's see here. Added longer spawn times to the level 7 or level 35 point of interest to account for longer times to kill enemies. Let's see here. Fixed an issue where the tree can fly into the sky after being chopped down. Again, cosmetic. Fixed an issue with the Disciple of Disorder only spawned once in Murkgard. So a particular mob that is not spawning as intended. So that's cool. So maybe we'll actually get to see what that particular dude drops. If he only spawned once, probably on reset, we might not know what he drops. So that could open up some new loot. This is good. This affects everyone. Fixed issues to data that is causing longer than expected load times. A lot of issues with load times going into or out of like OPR or wars and invasions. That's affecting all players. So definitely a really cool and good change there that they're bringing in. Let's see here. Fixed an issue of an invisible water present in Everfall North Orion that can slow players' movements or cause the player to drown. I did not know that exists, so that's interesting. Fixed an issue with an elite chest clipping through an orichalcum vein, making it difficult to loot in Murkgard. I do know of that. Various fixes to gatherables and vegetation below or inside world collision. Thank you. There's a silver vein that I like to hit, and I can't because it's in the world. There's also things floating above the world sometimes, so that's cool. Fixed holes in world collision, obviously also good. And then fixed a bug that did not allow ancient bear paw to be used in crafting. So again, just fixes across the board, which they're good fixes. Some may have affected you, some maybe have not, but in general, good changes there. They did make some changes to some creatures, right? So they made some changes, AI changes to bears. Increase the hit volumes for bipedal bears so that players can more consistently damage them. That's excellent, because sometimes when you're in invasion specifically and the bears go up, you stop hitting them. Skeletons, reduce the amount of health that skeletons will revive at from 70% to 40%. I hate the reviving skeletons and the fact that they're basically almost full health. They're like 75% health, 70%. So annoying to have to kill them like basically twice. So 40%, okay. Villagers, reduce the amount of healing that is generated from villager potions from 35 to 20%. Thank God. Those things basically like quaffed a potion. It felt like they went to full health again. So yeah. Also increase the cooldown of villager potions. Cool. Knights, the Varragian Knights celebrated the winter convergence by laying down their weapons and painting them to match the color of their armor. What? I don't know what that means, but okay. Tendrils, corrupted and angry earth tendrils, reduce the damage of sweep attack by 40%, reduce the frequency of this attack, but increase the reaction to a knockdown. Reduce the damage of the stab attack of the tendril by 50%, reduce the damage of thrash by the tendril by 40%, and reduce the damage of projectile attack by 50%, and remove the stagger reaction. The tendrils were a very annoying mob, either from the corrupted portals or the angry earth variant that you could find out in the swamp Breakwater. Got really annoying, were really hard for certain players to kill, especially the more casual players. So those adjustments I really like. I think that's a smart change there. There's a bit more. We'll keep going here. I want to get through all of these just so it doesn't kind of bleed over to next episode, and we can kind of start talking about some other stuff. But let's see here. There are combat changes specifically revolving around the mutations, right? The perks to where it comes to dealing with the mutations. So the Flame Attunement, attacks deal an additional 15% damage as fire. Frost Attunement, same with ice. Arboreal, same with nature. Abyssal, same with void. So they're adding weapon perks to allow you to deal additional damage as those different types. There is going to be armor perks added. So this is flame conditioning, frost conditioning, arboreal conditioning, and abyssal conditioning. Basically what these are going to do is, after being hit by inter-elemental damage here, gain a 4% absorption of that particular damage type for 5 seconds. Each piece of armor with this perk increases the potency of the effect. So if you're having issues in OPR, you're having issues in war with Void Gauntlets or with Ice Gauntlets tearing you a new one, this might be something to start to look at on some of your melee players. To put on your melee in order to stay alive. Again, these are the mutation in response to the elemental and the mutation items that they're adding for the expeditions. But these are going to be perks for weapons and armor, which means that you're going to be able to utilize these things in order to prevent damage from players as well. So I think this is a great addition here, and it's probably going to start to bring some of those mage users down. We saw a huge increase in mages in PvP, which was good because it kind of balanced out the ridiculous amount of the axe hammer users. It's kind of evened that out a little bit. But now we're starting to see a lot more overpowered in the mage department, where Ice Spike is doing a shit ton of damage. Obviously, we all know how annoying Void Gauntlet can be with all the different effects and crowd controlling and life stealing and all the different stuff that Void Gauntlet can do. This is going to now give you some sort of a damage reduction to this, where it's not just basic elemental reduction, or it's not the resilience or whatever it may be, but this is actually going to allow you to craft specific armor buffs in order, armor, I guess, perks I guess is the word they use, but buffs on your armor, which is going to protect you from these particular things. So again, more armor crafting out there. Definitely going to see these coming up on the auction house. And I would say when it first comes out, there's going to be a very premium price on the frost and abyssal conditioning. Just saying. I'm going to guess that stuff's going to be selling a lot based on the current meta in wars. PvP damage formula. We've adjusted the way that armor mitigation is calculated to use enemies' gear score value instead of your average gear score value. To adjust for the difference in armor mitigation, we increase the damage low-level players do to higher-level players and reduce the damage higher-level players do to lower-level players. This is something that has been in question for a long time. They've made some tweaks to it. It's something that a lot of players didn't want to see on release of higher-level players can just basically smash you regardless of your skill. These adjustments are going to continue to roll out in tune so that lower level players of high skill have a chance to defend themselves against a higher level player and doesn't just get flattened in like a shot or two. Some notable weapon fix changes. So fixed an issue that allowed the musket and the bow light attacks to be activated underwater. Fixed an issue that blocked bow from entering fixed an issue that blocked the bow from entering aim down sights if swapping to a bow while in the sniper zoom. So again, going from sniper to bow, it broke the aim down sights. Updated the rapier Tondo ability and the bow barbed arrows rain of arrows upgrade tooltips to state the damage per second instead of overall damage throughout the effect. So it's just a tooltip bug. Fixed the issue where players' movement speed was sometimes increased while placing a camp. Fixed a tooltip with fine corrupted sigils. Let's see. Remove text that flies out when triggering quick shower. Again, these aren't things that I really know about, so I can't really talk about them. I'm sure there's people who listen that know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what these are because I don't use that stuff. Fixed an issue where if shift was being held while aiming down sights with a bow or a musket, or if a player used any navigational action, the animation would stutter. Fixed to an issue where players becoming stuck after interacting with NPCs. That's a good one. And fixed issues that would cause you to cancel out of poison shot or penetrating shot if you were holding right mouse button. That is huge. When I was using bow and musket, that was super annoying. One thing that I don't see fixed here is the musket kind of exploit where you can use shooter stance for like ever. I don't know if that's still an issue. I haven't really paid attention. I just did a meme musket war where my entire team, we brought our A team. So of course the other side brought their A team, but what they didn't know was instead of running our normal strats, we all ran dex and all ran musket spear. And it was absolutely hilarious. The war itself was like 3 minutes long. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to watch. It's absolutely hilarious. It was a lot of fun. We didn't really care if we lost the territory anyways. We knew we probably were going to lose it. We just wanted to have fun. And so we did. And it's on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. But yeah, I wanted to see some more balancing overall in combat, but it is what it is. So there's another in-game update that's coming, and that is, again, a lot of people don't like the watermark system. It is what it is. I don't think we're going to go away, and from what I've seen here, we're not going to go away from the watermark system, but it is going to change a little bit. Namely, that our gear score, our expertise, if you will, or our watermark, can now go up to 625 with this update. But to do that, there's a new system being introduced called the Umbral upgrade system. Players can upgrade individual pieces of gear from 600 to 625 by spending Umbral shards. The ability to upgrade items of any type is unlocked when players hit 600 expertise for that item type. So again, expertise or watermarking is still very important. And it's something that you should be working on right now, because until your expertise is at, or your watermark is at 600, you're not going to be able to upgrade your gear any further until you have that slot at 600, right? So you should be working right now on your gypsum. You should be working right now on trying to get your watermark up as high as possible, because again, there's going to be a period of time where people who have been grinding that out and are at 600 item level are going to get to 625 and they're going to leave you in the dust. So just like early on when people were getting void bent really quickly and they were having this really powerful gear, there's going to again be a decent gear increase here from 600 to 625 that you're going to miss out on if you don't work on your watermarking. So they introduced the gypsum with the last update with this holiday event, like going to all the trees. You can get 3 diamonds a day, which means you can get 1 piece of gear a day upgraded in watermark. So there's a lot of opportunities now and a lot of ways to increase that watermark. I still think they should add the ability to, if you craft an item, that item should give you the expertise, but they haven't added that in there. Again, it would give an advantage to crafters, which I think is a great thing to do. Players can acquire these Umbral shards via 3 different methods. Expedition mutations are the most efficient way to earn shards. The higher the difficulty level, the higher the score you rank. The higher score you achieve, the more shards a player will earn. Opening gypsum casts. So again, I just talked about gypsum, getting your watermark up with using the gypsum. Once the expertise of that item is reached at 600 expertise, the opening of gypsum casts will increase that watermark. Crafting 600 gear score items. Once the expertise of that item has reached 600 expertise, so you can craft higher level gear score items that way. Upgrading any item via Umbral shards binds that item to the player. So you can't get a level 600 item, use your Umbral shards to upgrade to a 625, and then sell it. It's not happening. You can't do that. Expertise system obviously now goes to 625. Players raise their expertise from 590 to 600 through the current means, gypsum casts and random open world drops. Expertise is increased from 600 to 625 via the Umbral system. Expertise gear scaling. Any item that is purchased from the trading post or acquired through a peer-to-peer after the January patch will have its effective gear score scaled down to the midpoint of the player's expertise and the item's gear score, if their expertise is lower than the item's gear score. So that means all you folks out there who want to go out and just buy 600 level gear, well, guess what? It's not going to be 600 level gear when you put it on. If your expertise, which means your knowledge and your ability to use that gear, is not at 600, it's going to downscale that gear to the midpoint between where you are and the gear score piece. This was a common system used, so I'm very familiar with it. This was a common system used back in the EverQuest days, where if you got a very high level item, because a lot of the stuff in EverQuest was bind on equip, so you could buy like a level 60 item at level 1 if you had the gold for it. But what it would do is it would downscale the stats, it would downscale the abilities on that down to closer to your level, right? That is the same system they're putting in here. And again, the idea is that a company or a rich person can't buy a whole bunch of 600 gear for someone and it's going to be 600 gear on them. They want to, and this is why I said watermark is not going away. Whether you like it, whether you hate it, it's not going to go away. It is important. The expertise system in this game is something that Amazon Game Studios is behind, and they're focused on it, and they've given us a lot of abilities to basically get that up easier than just the old system that we had of just getting random drops. They've given us a lot of tools in order to increase that. Now they're expecting us to use those tools, and if you're not utilizing those tools, starting after this update, your 600 gear, if it is not, if it's a piece of gear that you acquired through the buying it or getting it from someone else, after January, if that 600 piece of gear does not match your expertise, it will downgrade I mean, it's going to still be a 600 piece, but the stats and everything will downgrade to the midpoint between where it is and where you are, right? So if you're talking a 600 piece, your expertise is 400, that piece is going to be equivalent to a 500. Is it still an upgrade for you? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. But it's not a 600 piece of gear. So there you go. So work on that expertise. Use your Gypsum cast. I'm telling you right now, they're so easy to get. And if you're not someone who likes gathering, we already talked earlier why gathering is important. With the Azoth stuff, gathering also gives you the opportunity to get Gypsum. It also gives you the ability to do corruption portals for Gypsum. And if you're gathering, or you just want to spend money on the auction house, you can buy all the different rare bugs, use a tier 5 camp, and actually craft a potion, which when you're killing level 55 plus mobs, will give you the ability to loot Gypsum. So there's a lot of ways to get Gypsum, and you can make a whole bunch of different Gypsum orbs, and you're allowed to get, if you've got a Gypsum orb, you can have one Gypsum orb for every item slot in your inventory, and you can upgrade your expertise every single day if you put the time into it to get that amount of Gypsum out. You can upgrade every single one of your pieces every time you have a Gypsum to get the cast. So there's plenty of ways now to get your expertise up, so there's really no excuse when this launches for people to be pissed off about it. You may not like the expertise or the former watermarking system, but guess what? It's here to stay. So like it, love it, hate it, don't care. It's here. If you want to play the game, that's what you're going to deal with. So get used to it. General enhancements and quality of life. Whenever you craft a gear score 600 item, if your expertise for that item type is under 600, it will trigger an expertise bump. This will be another great way for crafters, hey, I just said this, to get their expertise to 600. An additional to the already released Emerald Gypsum from Trade Skills Aptitude, which is what I said when you level up, you get Gypsum from that, and 1 emerald equals 1 orb. So there you go. So if you're not doing crafting right now, you should probably start doing crafting, because here's another way to get your expertise up. I know I'm working on crafting right now. Get to crafting. I don't care if you don't like crafting. I'm not a huge fan of trade skilling in either in mini games. I think the system that they have in this game for trade skills is excellent. I think it's awesome. So I have been doing trade skills, and I plan on maxing out all my trade skills. I'm not there yet because I just don't have the time, but I will get there. And this is another great way for players to increase their expertise. So if you're not out there freaking crafting and gathering, freaking get out there and craft and gather. Even if you don't want to gather, just, go out and do things to make money and then buy the materials you need to craft and get up to whatever. There's multiple ways. You can design how you want to get to where you want to be, right? You just have to put in the time and the effort. There you go. If you get an expertise bump from a random drop in the world, the loot ticker will now show which item gave you the expertise bump. So that's good. If you get an expertise bump from opening a reward cache, opening the sequence will highlight which item gave you the bump. So you'll be able to see it in your actual inventory, which item gave you the bump. If you get I just read that one. You can now craft the Topaz Gypsum Attunement Potion, which is the potion I told you about that you craft from tier 5 camps, at any Arcana station, as well as the tier 5 camp. So this is awesome because how it is right now is I have to pick the bugs out of my storage, go out, set out a camp, craft my thing, and then go deposit my bugs. So this is going to be great that you can do it at the Arcana station. Again, it says any Arcana station, so I'm guessing a tier 1 station will be fine if you particularly want to do it, at your town and your town doesn't have it upgraded. So it looks like it can be done at any of them, even tier 1. Increase the odds of getting a Topaz Gypsum when killing enemies and attuned. So they're making it easier for you to get Gypsum. So again, no excuse. No excuse. Excuse me. The system will help visually impaired players enter the world of Attunement through a voice narration of some critical steps needed to create a character and get to the starting beach. So some accessibility options, which if you ever listen to my Pirate Talk Radio, I did an entire episode on what Rare has done to really try to make the game playable by anyone regardless of any exceptionality or disability. So I'm glad to see New World is getting on board with this. Remove the ability to give gold to individuals outside of the peer-to-peer trading system. Sorry, streamers. Shit. Sorry, streamers. Sorry, company owners. If you didn't know, there was a system where you could just give money, and there were some popular streamers where people were just giving money to them, right? Regardless if they're online or not. So now you actually have to open the trade with them. Oof. Womp womp. Womp 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 womp. Some other notable fixes. Fixed bug where Outpost Rush reward screen would only show one reward even if multiple were earned. I was wondering about that. Fixed a bug that caused the territory standing upgrade UI to stay on screen if the player starts a trade skill whilst it's visible. That is annoying. Adjusted mini Void Gauntlet icons to match the Gauntlet's model color. Boom! There you go. Another large patch, in my opinion, another great patch from them. I think this is probably 3 for 3. I know I liked the December patch with the Winter Convergence event. I've really enjoyed that. We talked about that at the beginning of this episode. So if you missed that, go back to the beginning. I don't know how long ago that was, but go back to the beginning. And this is another great patch, I think. So kudos to AGS for listening to the feedback. Kudos for them to make some really interesting changes. I'm not quite sure how I feel about them basically ripping off the Mythic Plus system of Blizzard, even though I think the Mythic Plus system is really good for World of Warcraft. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a system that's been out for years, and I think that it's time for a new system to be brainstormed and created by someone who's creative and fun and going to come up with something new. But again, AGS with this game, their first major release, a lot of issues early on. So again, taking a system that they know works in another game that's very popular in another game, taking that system and slapping it into this one with their own twist, I don't see necessarily an issue with it. I would have just liked to see a different way or a different approach, but I'm excited to get in there and have some fun with some of the new mutated expeditions. I think it's a really good update, and it's going to feed those PvE players who have been missing something to do, right? So again, if you want to check out the entire list that I just went over, I didn't hit everything on the list. And again, it's not all inclusive, so we'll see some other things that they brought out. The patch notes will be in the show notes below the video or in your podcasting app if you want to check that out. But guys, thank you very much. Thank you for folks in chat. I appreciate it. Again, you can check out the Attunement News Network on YouTube. You can check it out on all your podcasting apps, and you can join the conversation live on twitch.tv/Davrim every single Friday between 6 and 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and join the chat. If you would like to support the broadcast, obviously you can come over to Twitch and drop a follow and say hello, but all my Twitch revenue goes to the Extra Life charity. If you would like to support the content that I do and the broadcast itself, you can go over to patreon.com/DavrimTV, and there's a variety of different subscriptions. You can support me financially there, and you'll get some rewards and some early access and behind the scenes and fun stuff like that. So guys, thank you very much. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you next week on episode 6 of the Attunement News Network.